I've never seen more vuvuzelas, more makarappas, and I think it's fantastic. A year ago, I didn't know what a makarappa was, although I must be honest, I don't mind if they go away after the World Cup.
You know what, I played football to the highest level. I've never seen something like this. This is absolutely out of this world. It's absolutely amazing.
I must tell you, I have never experienced anything like this, not even with the '95 World Cup. It is just incredible. You know, the State Blatter said the other day that even win or lose for Bafana, this is about so much more. This is about uniting a nation.
Well, I think South Africa has hosted the World Cup quite tremendously, and everything is run off quite smoothly, and organisation has been 100%.
The vibe in this country is unprecedented. Whether you're at Melrose Arch or whether you're on the Grand Parade in Cape Town, you know, the people in this country have really embraced this World Cup, and we're all very, very proud to be South African.
Nice to see a nation coming together like that. But Paul, I think it's safe to say that some South Africans were a little bit nervous pre the World Cup. But looking at it back now, do you think we've actually met those expectations?
Sure. Not only met them, exceeded them massively. I think nervous is an understatement. We had some real naysayers who thought we couldn't pull this off. There was the whole debate about should we be putting our money into this in the first place. So there was it was a very controversial area, and that's why at the time when I was at the International Marketing Council, we set out one of the key success factors. We thought we had to take the country with us. But we knew we didn't have the money to do the whole thing, so we said we'll start a series of fires. And if you will, Fly the Flag was a fire. We started to get people more familiar with the flag and the anthem, and then the Football Friday, which literally took a long time to get that traction going, was just a symbolic action of putting on your shirt and then focusing on those areas. But that took, the tipping point was actually when Danny Jordan put his shirt on the beginning of September last year, and then about a month later the Deputy President invited us to the Union buildings, and from that point on it started happening. But you know what the real tipping point was on all this stuff? Take it to the streets. The moment you could buy the merchandise on the street corner, it became a reality. Because some of my colleagues were saying, how are we going to make this thing go? I said, just get it to the streets, it will go. And it's gone. But the question is now, what do we do now?
What do we do now? That is the question.
Michael said earlier, this is just the beginning of good things to come.
Absolutely. I mean, if we look at mega events like this, if we look back at previous Olympics, previous World Cups, people talk about the legacy or the impact, and they try and have that conversation the week after. And it's important for us to reflect. But really, when you talk about the impact, it's about the next 7 to 10 years. And it's really about what we do today, tomorrow, and next week that will determine the legacy of the World Cup. So the World Cup gave us this wonderful opportunity, gave us this wonderful platform to now do things that will change the way the rest of the world continue to see the country. And you know, the legacy of the World Cup is really what we carry on doing. It's not what we've done over the last 45 days and 6 years. It's really what we continue doing over the next 45 days and the next 6 years.
Yeah, let's break that down. What does that actually mean for us in South Africa?
Well, what it means, firstly, from a tourism point of view. So if you talk about the tourism legacy, we've seen really interesting numbers of people coming from different places. And so South America has been raised as an interesting, South and Central America. And so the few thousand Mexicans that came versus normally the few hundred that come during a year. And so we have 9.9 million tourists. Only 2.5 million of those are from outside of Africa. So it's an important market for us to keep attracting. But really, many of the people who came to the World Cup are coming from markets that traditionally have not visited the country, even in our high season, where in June and July it was our low season. So I think there are those opportunities for us, not just to recognize they came, but now to do something about it. So our campaign in Chile and in Honduras and in Argentina and in Brazil and in Mexico tomorrow, next week, that's what's going to determine from a tourism point of view. Absolutely. But we've got to be there. We've got to find out who came, what did they think, where did they go back to, who are they talking to, how can we encourage them to say more about what they did, and how can we encourage them to tell their friends to come next year. And if we don't actively go out and do that, legacy is hard work. Legacy is not sitting back and waiting and saying, we've done an awesome job, let's just wait for them to come. That's not going to happen unless we go out and do it over the next few years.
But are we going to be doing that, Paul?
We are. In fact, I just came from a tourism meeting this morning where we're driving the next level strategy. The one slightly frustrating fact is you can't get actual facts yet on how many people came and from where they came. The most accurate facts will come from FIFA ticket sales. But even then, you need to make a certain assumption about how many tickets per person. We still think the number will be about 300,000 incremental, as opposed, you know, they started talking about 1 million people during June. Well, that's because of the existing people coming anyway. But I think the fact of the matter is, yes, one of the key markets that will come into focus now is Brazil. Particularly, President Lula spoke on Friday at a DTI function, and he said, Why is it that 90% of the people that came here from South America had to go through Europe or the United States?
Yeah.
I came here by plane, it's 9 hours. Why is there no south-south connectivity? So those type of initiatives will happen because, you know, we can talk about the markets we want to go to, but if we haven't got the air accessibility, and remember that's not a one-way street, more flights is one thing. Trying to land at Sao Paulo is a nightmare. They've got to fix that. They have got not the capacity to land planes. So I think there's a tourism thing, but I'd also like to put on the table the overall reputation of Brand South Africa, because a lot of people before the tournament, you were saying how would people feel? They were a bit nervous. We thought we'd give a wonderful, warm, friendly, loud World Cup. What we didn't think is we'd give an efficient World Cup.
Yeah.
Well, hello, Germany. Yeah. We actually did it with true Teutonic ability. Yes, perhaps driven by FIFA Sergeant Majors. It doesn't matter. We did it. We've got something new to add to the Brand South Africa attribute now. We've got this thing called efficiency and effectiveness. Didn't know those guys could do that. That's remarkable in terms of now our potential to improve our global competitiveness, to attract industry, et cetera, so it's wonderful.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at kind of a sentiment analysis of all the Twitter feeds and all the online discussion that there was around the World Cup, and that broke all the records for all the websites and all the Twitters that are out there. But if you look at the kind of words that come out over and over, the pattern suggests it's about modern, efficient, world-class, safe, friendly, and the future. And those are the kind of words.
Safe.
Yeah.
Is that a word you ever thought we would have?
Wasn't that what we were a little bit, you know?
And isn't that the question? If we could do it by putting 40,000 extra policemen on the street during this, can we not keep it going?
Rob, what was the highlight for you in terms of what this tournament means for Brand South Africa?
Well, I just think that, again, we just planted so many seeds for the future. I mean, the fans came, they experienced our warm South African hospitality, they communicated home on world-class communication networks, they used our world-class banking systems, and I just think we've opened the eyes of the world, and I think this has just got to be good for tourism, it's got to be good for business in the future. Yeah. So we've really done ourselves proud. It's been a fantastic month, and we must really have set ourselves up for many, many years to come, as we keep saying. How do we keep the momentum going? And that's the trick.
But like Michael said, this is just the beginning.
It's just the beginning. It's an exciting new beginning.
South Africa's potential tipping point. Yes. It was our second defining moment. 94 was the first one. Get this right, move this forward, as Malcolm Gladwell will tell us. It starts to happen here. But it has to start from us, which means we've got to keep this stuff going. I mean, the fact was, again, I was discussing this morning, people suddenly saw the faces of tourists. Before that, tourists were numbers. They slipped into the country, went to a luxury lodge, and they saw them drinking in the streets or whatever. It was wonderful, real people. South Africa itself has taken to the sport, which is the international sport, football. You get people that previously didn't know that was one with a round ball and a net. They now are hooked. Yeah. So the social cohesion dimension, we mustn't underestimate that. I mean, the Invictus moment started, curiously, I think, with the Super 14 final, semi-final in fact, where South African team, the Blue Bulls, played against the New Zealand team in Soweto. We've carried that through. Our Invictus moment has been about self-discovery. Yeah. It's finding ourselves as a people and being one.
Yeah, on that positive note, Paul Bannister, custodian of Brand South Africa, Michael Goldman of GIBS, and Rob Smuts of RMS Media, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes the end of part 1 of our World Cup special.
Well, don't miss next week as we continue our discussions in part 2. And remember, you can send us a mail on media@cnbcafrica.com, and you can watch all the videos on abndigital.com. From me, Jackie Nell, and the team, goodbye.
Well, on a lighter note, we leave you with a behind-the-scenes look at the Bafana comedy show that left the audiences in stitches. Here's her now.
In the midst of the World Cup, the comedy festival Bafana has sold out all of its 12 shows around the country. More than 50,000 people watched 8 of the top comedians in the country perform sets with sports high up on the agenda. It was a match made in heaven. The premise behind Bafana is that if South Africa had to choose a team to represent us at some kind of comedy World Cup, it would be this team of 8.
We created a framework around them and a structure around them, which is Bafana. It has lots of video content and audio content that gives it that sporting theme, like the interviews and the pre-show and the post-game and all that kind of stuff that basically gives it that sporting feel, like you're watching it to your TV at home and you're watching a football game about to start and you have the pre-game commentary and that kind of thing. So that's just frameworks around their comedy. But then ultimately, when they go on stage, they must be funniest they can be for 15 minutes. Because ultimately, that's what the audience wants. The audience would rather see 15 minutes of the best material coming out of Mark Banks' mouth than see 15 minutes of half-baked stuff that actually is trying to force into a brief. So, because ultimately our job is to make the audience laugh.
Sam Hendricks, CEO of Hunter Live and creator of Bafani, attributes the success of the show to its marketing and the jackpot idea of putting a heavyweight list of funny men all under one bill.
I don't know where these rumors start, but the Minister of Sport is now involved. Everyone is now involved. What do they say?
You know, when you get 8 of the finest comedy minds in the country together at the same time, there's next level of magic that happens as well. So, you know, it's this kind of idea, FIFA World Cup, you know, what do? You know, then the name, oh wow, got a great name, then got a great lineup. And it just becomes easier and easier each step of the way. And the audiences, you ask maybe why it's sold out and why it's done these record-breaking numbers. I just think it's for all of those kind of things, you know. And you can go out with a bad idea, with bad energy and the wrong people, and you can spend 5 million rand marketing it, and no one's going to come, you know. But you can get a great idea with good people and good energy, and it's going to sell itself. And that's what's happened for us, unfortunately.
Success of Bafani Festival has shown that it's the local comedians that can pull in a crowd at a higher rate.
I was 7 years old. I forgot how many times I got robbed. In Melbourne, who in their right mind?
Our business is that we've sold over 500,000 comedy tickets in the last 10 years in South Africa in various ways. But the fact that it's now done with local comedians is so important, because, you know, there's been this perception that a Chris Rock is a more valuable ticket than a Bafani. Go back pre-Bafani, you know. Some local comedians performing in a venue, you charge 60 Rand and 200 people arrive, and that's what you do. You do Chris Rock 5,000 arrive and you charge 400 Rand a ticket. This project has changed that in many ways, and has changed the perception of what you can firstly charge for a ticket. It's changed the perception of what the scopes of success will be. We've sold more tickets for Bafani than we sold for Chris Rock.
The Grand West Arena was sold out weeks in advance, with soccer fans looking for some light-hearted relief from the tension during the World Cup.
You can't just watch football for a month. You cannot watch. You need a break, especially, you know, when your emotions are stressful. Watching Ghana, watching Bafana, we needed a release. That's what people have gotten through this.
Although the comedians did not specifically focus on sport or the World Cup, most had strong views on the performances on the pitch.
You don't see that shit in rugby. You don't see little girls play dribble, 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 tap. Then they play the video back and he didn't even touch the eye. So he's like in the corner going, oh no, but it's the thought that hurts.
Lohisa Gola, a Cape Townian-born comedian living in Gauteng, had a lot to say about Spain's chances of winning the World Cup, but it was the Ghanaian team who won his heart.
I was at the Ghana-Uruguay game. That broke my soul. I was in pieces. In fact, the first time I'll ever admit, I cried. Because, you know, that one guy single-handedly ruined the party for the whole continent.
And Nick Rabinowitz did include the GIBS into its set.
The exciting bits were the opening ceremony with the praise singer, self-incorporated Zolani Mkiva, who was out there going, which of course means, please God, let Bafana score 1 goal in the World Cup, which we did. We scored 3, and then, I don't know, things like the English, the guy Pavlos, who broke into the English changing room going, hello, I'm Pavlos and I need the toilet. We've done a remarkable job. We knew we could. The world had doubts. They had plan A, Sib Blatter had plan D, plan E, plan F, but we've shown that African, that's what we like to say, African. And how do I feel? I can feel it. I can feel it. It's nearly gone, but I can still feel it. Some people thought it was Philip. Can you Philip? Where's Philip? It's not here, it's in Philip.
This is just the tipping point for Hunter Live, who has hit on the trend to link comedy to sport.
You know, there's next year, there's the Rugby World Cup. So we'll take on Australia and New Zealand like we did the World Albert Hall in this time round, and, you know, find something to do there. And when the Olympics happen, we'll play well. You know, it's, now we have the idea for the comedy team. You know, why not just do it again?
Once again, it's a race issue, because you wouldn't ask the same question to a white player.